Welcome to the Peachtree Podcast. Peachtree Learning Center is a nonprofit in Middle Tennessee dedicated to training and discipling students in all the fine arts to become excellent and skilled in order to spread the kingdom of God into the world of the arts. On this podcast, we will discuss topics designed to encourage, uplift, educate, and equip people to proclaim the kingdom more deeply in their own families and communities. Welcome back to the Peachtree Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Mario DaSilva, who has driven out early on a Monday to come talk to us today. He drives out on Mondays from Nashville, and it's a little bit of a commute. So thank you for coming early, and you probably had to fight more morning traffic than normal today.
Well, it's always a pleasure. It's worthwhile, and I'm very happy to be here.
You're a huge blessing to musicians here, and Mario's added quite a dimension to our music department. We're very grateful for what you're doing, and we wanted to talk to you about kind of how you got to where you are. So let me give our audience a little bit of background. Mario's from Brazil and moved here to go to college and stayed, and we're going to kind of cover some of that information for you. But along the way, I want him to speak to kind of what fed his musical vision and how he was able to persevere in that pursuit, even though it wasn't necessarily the most commercially minded choice or certainly not the most secure choice for a career. You never know as a musician how that's going to work out. And I do get a kick out of, there's a meme I have on my phone now that says a professional musician is somebody who loads $5,000 worth of equipment into their car that cost $2,500 to go play at a gig that'll pay $50.
True.
And that really
very
rings true. But I know you've experienced that, and you've also experienced God's faithfulness in just providing and giving you places to play and things to say. So I want to get into that. So we're just going to jump in. So tell us how you came to come to America in the first place. What prompted you? Or actually, let's go further back. Let's just start with, when did you pick up a guitar?
Okay, yeah, that's an easy thing to talk about. That's basically going to give away my age here. The Beatles were in their height of their careers, and everybody in my street was playing the guitar. And I got really curious about it because I saw guitars on television, and I saw these little frets and strings crossing. And somehow they had close-ups of fretboards on TV. I don't know. To this day, I remember very clearly. And that really intrigued me. And then finally saw that live. A neighbor of mine had it. And then I finally realized, well, maybe I should do what everybody was doing. It was like a peer pressure kind of thing. So that's how it started. And then on my way back from school, there was a guitar laying around in my friend's house. And I picked up and tried. And then after many weeks of trying, I finally figured out my three chords, which that's where all the songs are made of, 3 chords. So, and then it started from there and never stopped ever since.
Wow. So you went through high school. Your parents obviously said, well, this is a real thing, so we'll get you your own guitar at some point along the way.
Absolutely.
And then how did you end up coming to America to study?
Well, the thing with coming to America, there was a real process in between the time I started playing and the final moments where I finally decided, yes, I'm going to be a musician. And then there was a time when the opportunity came to be here in the United States. My mom was not very much fond of the idea of me being a musician. And she, for obvious reasons, the financial foes that comes with being a musician and other things, and also the lifestyle. She was very concerned about the lifestyle. And so basically, I grew up in a Christian environment. And what brought me to be a musician was the very Christian environment, which when you look back at some other very famous musicians, especially in the R&B realm, they started with gospel. So basically, I have that same background. And except that I was in several youth groups as a singer, and then I finally got a position of playing guitar, and that led me to my first recording session. I was 15 years old. I was in the studio, and then that's when that moment quote, that's what I want to do, end quote, in my life came along. So I'm going to be a musician. That's it. Because people told me, yeah, when you become a session player, you're going to make such and such amount of money per track. That's the way it was back in the day,
Right.
in the 70s. Yeah, you will make, this great amount of money per track you record. And then I go visit sessions. People would let me go in, watch these professional recording sessions. And I fell in love with this whole thing. But it is one thing when you actually have the idea, and then the implications along the way pretty much change things for you. And being here, actually, it's not what I'm doing for a living, but there are no regrets.
So you came and you went to Belmont.
I came, yes. Sorry, I guess I need to answer that.
That's good. No,
It's all tangent here. Yes, I came to Belmont as a fruit of this whole environment of being in the studios and working with youth groups. And then there was I heard about Belmont University through this missionary, a good friend of mine, Mr. Roger Cole. He was an American missionary from North Carolina. He served in São Paulo, Brazil, and he saw that I play guitar. He saw, hey, this guy's pretty good. Maybe I should just bring him up here to America and enroll him at Belmont. So the whole process came, and then the vehicle was, I was part of a Christian rock group, so to speak, or maybe a pop group. And we all toured the United States, the southern part of the United States, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, and places like that. And there was the vehicle. There was the way that I would have a visa, because visas were not easy to get.
Right.
So I got my visa as a tourist visa, and then I stayed, and the group went back, and then I started at Belmont as a music major.
Okay.
That was it.
So was that transfer to America more because there was not a lot of opportunity for that in Brazil or in your area, or he?
That was my perception of it.
I see.
At the time, but the more I lived here, the more I realized there are not as many opportunities here as I thought, and there are more opportunities there than I thought. So it's kind of balanced out. Things sort of balanced out to a way.
Sure.
Now that the Brazilian scene is very prosperous.
Yes.
Commercially speaking.
But you met your lovely wife, Kathy, and you wouldn't go back and change it now.
Of course.
You have a wonderful son and lots of beautiful grandchildren.
Yes, and I met my wife, and she wasn't on board with the idea of going back to Brazil. Because actually, when I was in college, the whole plan was for me to finish up and pack my stuff and get back to Brazil. And that's what actually happened. That's what the immigration department made me do. So I had to come back.
I see.
I had to leave the country when I finished college because my student visa was expired. But I had my wife in the radar. We were still planning things. So.
Yes. So that worked out.
Yeah,
you
sure
got
did.
to come back and marry her, and she's a nurse, and
she's a nurse. Yes.
Tolerates lots of music and a studio in the basement, and a son who also grew up playing guitar like a fiend, and.
Yes. She tolerates my schedule, having to be playing late at night and things like that. So yes, she's been very gracious about the whole thing.
So would it be fair to say that when you embarked on studying music, that you didn't know on the front end that was going to be a secure source of income, or that wasn't going to be the most stable provider of the American dream of a retirement plan and 3 cars or whatever?
Right.
You did not know that on the front end, right?
Well, the person that sponsored me here, Mr. Cole, he said, look at this guy in the picture of this album. This is Mr. Actually it was a picture of Harold Bradley, Nashville guitarist, which I became like totally, enamored with in the sense that he was a successful musician and session player. And this is exactly what I want to do, Mr. Bradley. And Mr. Bradley, by the way, Mr. Cole told me, he makes a good living playing guitar. And that was totally against what my mother said, because my mother said, you musicians don't really make a lot of money. So, but then, of course, things changed as you get deeper into the pursuit of wanting to be a recording session, especially in Nashville, because of the competition.
Right.
Because of the even as far as to say that there's a certain amount of security that the producers have in calling the same players that they know well, that they know they can do a good job. So, and these people are in the studio every day.
Right.
And so that way
That's
you
pretty stable.
become really good at what you do.
Right.
And that's all you do.
Yeah, that's great. And you've had quite a varied career because you ended up getting degrees in other things too, right? You went on and got a...
Yes. So when the dream about being a studio musician started to fade a little bit, of course I do sessions, but not on a daily basis like some guys did. I could not rely on sessions to make a living. As the dream started to fade away, it happened so gradually that it wasn't painful at all to realize, one day I woke up.
Actually, I'm doing this other thing that probably was what God meant for me to do all along. He used the carrot of the dream to get me here and in this space. And
Absolutely. And God does that.
Yes,
God
He does.
definitely does that. So, and I am happy now. Like I said earlier, there are no regrets.
No.
And I'm happy that I teach. I'm happy that I can share everything that I received when I was in the student chair.
Right.
And now I can give these things back. And I can see how much that will help folks more than I ever realized.
Thank you so much for joining us today. To support this podcast, please go follow us on your podcast platform of choice. And if you're interested in knowing more about the work of Peachtree, please go visit our website at peachtreelearningcenter.com for more information.